Hello everyone, this is Jay or Sloeo, and it has been 2 entire months, 2 very long months, and I'm back with my second video. This is horrible. I can't believe it's been 2 months, but I had this plan actually when it came to my first video where it's a promise to myself that I made. I can't believe it. It wasn't even a promise, not even optimism. This was delusions. I thought, wow, I can probably pop out a video every 2 weeks, blah, blah, blah. What happened? So after I posted my first video, I actually was super excited because it was my first time completing such a long editing recording session and then talking over it, right? And I was pretty proud of the video to the point that the sketch that you're seeing I did immediately after my first video. I was just very optimistic. I just thought, okay, I'm gonna sketch this, and when I have time, I'm gonna come back and I'll paint it, I'll color it, right? I ended up letting this sketch sit in my sketchbook for such a long time, and every time I would flip through my sketchbook, I'd be like, oh, there's that second video I wanted to do, but whenever I have time. And that just ended up being me pushing the video further and further, and then it became 2 months. I try to hold myself accountable by asking you guys what other medium you would want to see me using, and in my community post, you guys voted for colored pencils to be incorporated into this specific video, and so I thought that was going to be something to push me to work on the video, but it didn't happen. So anyway, this is me doing the sketch, and this is actually the second attempt at the sketch, because the first time I did a full body, and what ended up happening was she was taking up too much space. I have the sketching recorded, but I just thought, okay, you guys are not going to see this anyway, so I might as well just not have it part of the video. But you can kind of see time passing by the page adjacent to this being drawn on. I'm actually like a couple of pages away from this now because it's been so long. But then again, it also reminds me how I don't draw much in my sketchbook. But these two are characters I ended up drawing on the adjacent page. The two girls that were hugging, and so I just decided I liked how they looked, so I will, draw them again, but this time with more detail. And I put a lot more effort into the colored pencil portion because it seems like that's something you guys like from me. But do let me know if there's another medium now that you also want to see from me, now that we've done gouache and colored pencils. Also, as I was recording this, I got my play button, so I want to say thank you guys so much for all of your support. I was flabbergasted with the amount of interactions I got for my first video. I really wasn't expecting for people to comment much. I just thought since it was an art video, people would be like, okay, I like this, and then they would like it. But thank you guys so much for all of your feedback, and you guys were all just super nice to me and were suggesting different things to me, and also I asked questions and you guys answered, so thank you so much for that. Okay, so seeing as we're now doing the painting portion, I think it's perfect for me to talk a little bit about the sketch and my concerns while all of that was happening. Definitely I need a script because I'm just not on top of things, but regardless, when I was erasing my first draft for the script, I noticed that I was actually pulling at the paper too much, and I was seeing little fibers kind of come off, and that's when I knew, oh no, right? This was especially my worries on the colored pencil part, which is the half body, because I was going to be going over that part a lot with different colors. I'll be burnishing and pressing really hard on the paper, and this does come back to bite me later because my worries did happen. The paper bubbled on me and ended up like disintegrating while I was trying to color, but you'll see that later. Well, you won't see it because I actually skipped that part, but now you know. So with that rambling out of the way, I want to talk a little bit more about the gouache process, right? And also why I wear gloves. I think I might have mentioned this last time, but just in case I didn't, I wear gloves primarily because of the oils in your hands, and also whenever you wear lotion, you don't want the products to be on the surface of the paper you're painting on because it disturbs the way that the paint sits, right? Sometimes your paper will act as if it's hydrophobic to the paints that you're using, so I'm always trying my best to not even have my hands on the paper if I know I will be painting on that portion. So even later on, when I'm using colored pencils, I will still wear the gloves on my left hand because I'm always touching the paper. So in that way, I just don't want it to be ruined within the process of the recording. I don't mind if things get smudged while I'm closing my sketchbook, but I just want it to look good for the video, so yeah. For me, an added bonus in wearing gloves is actually the way I can drag out very steady long lines, and I don't know if it's just all in my head, placebo effect, that whenever I'm not wearing gloves, I'm like, oh, my lines are kind of shaky, but when I do, they're perfect. So from then on, I just always wear gloves if I want to get really long, steady lines. And I think it's the grip that the rubber has on the brush, where the brush is not slipping away from me. So everything just feels very controlled. And as I was painting this, I was actually looking for somewhere to swatch my paints. Yes, I could have definitely done it on the sketchbook, on the page I was painting on, but my thought was, ooh, I want this to be a pretty page so that I can have a nice thumbnail, but I edit the thumbnail, so I don't know what the thought process was, but I took out my Yeti, that's the mic I use, and it has this spherical piece of cardstock almost, so I was using it for the swatching. It's totally a different texture of, it's a glossy texture, so the paints were not sitting the way it does on my paper, my sketchbook, but I want to maybe continually use that as a swatch sheet of sorts, and so as more videos go on, maybe it's gonna build more and more colors. But to put that aside, as you can see throughout my entire process, I use a hairdryer very often. And with a hairdryer, it's just so that I can 100% guarantee that the layer I'm painting on is dried. Nothing is worse than when the layer beneath you think it's dried, and so you're doing layers on top, and then you're like, oh no, it's kind of mixing with the paints beneath. The thing is, with acrylic gouache, I cannot guarantee that I can mix the color again, and it's not like I can reactivate colors that have dried on me, so it's just to put me at ease, right? It's also a time saver, especially when it's watercolor. It's great to just dry your layers and then work on the next one. But anyway, when it comes to gouache, I really like doing this thing where you're glazing paints on top of your already painted on layers, where you're not really building up thickness, you're just adding in different colors. So here I'm painting in the nose to be a little more red, the shadow of the nose, and also her cheeks. So what you just do is put a lot of water in your paints and hope for the best, but make sure that the layer underneath is cool to the touch. After you use your hairdryer, it's now cool, because if it's still hot, your glaze layer will dry immediately and it becomes really splotchy. So yeah. And to add on to this, I actually much prefer for my layers to be extremely thin, and that's actually how I get my layers to be very flat looking. Like my entire illustration at the end, it's not bumpy. This is a personal choice of mine where I don't like when my gouache painting looks bumpy. I want it to look clean, right? I like that it looks a little digitized, so I like when there's no very apparent strokes, as in three-dimensional strokes, not your paint texture that you choose to paint in yourself. This is a personal thing. I know some people probably like the impasto look, and that's totally up to you, but when gouache gets too thick, especially traditional gouache, it does tend to like crack and fall apart, so that's also something I don't want to do. For me, the best way that I can maintain for all of my layers to be super flat is to just have everything very thin. All of my layers, especially the skin layer, is very thin, and that's the way I can see the sketch underneath. So the question that is very frequently asked is, how come when I paint on the skin, I could see the red pencil underneath still, but like when the person asking is painting on the skin, everything, the sketch disappears. So I think it's always about the assumption that gouache should be painted very thickly, and it doesn't always have to be that way. It's definitely a personal preference, right? So if you ever think, oh, the gouache maybe is a little too thick and you want to see the sketch underneath, just like add a lot more water to it. My gouache on my palette basically sometimes looks a little like watercolor because of how much water I'm putting to it. And also with me having an excessive amount of water in a lot of my paint mixtures, it does help me with my line art. Again, it helps me drag out these very lengthy lines because my paint isn't very gloopy, so it's not dragging onto the paper and getting stuck between the texture of my sketchbook. I use a mixed media sketchbook, so sometimes the paints do cling on to little bits of the tooth of the paper, but oh, speaking of sketchbook, I am still thinking about whether I should switch my sketchbook or not. I'm still thinking about this because my concern is my sketchbook doesn't fit into frame, but I'll have to think a little bit about that. Maybe I'll talk about it later, but anyway, in this color pencil portion, I used the Kalour colored pencils, or Kalour colored pencils, Kalour, and Arteza with Prismacolors. I also used one Arrtx colored pencil, and whatever happened to that, because I remembered them having like a 200 and something set of colored pencils, not the water-based ones, and they were really good. I loved all of the browns in there, especially the grays. Everything looked amazing, and then I recently went to look for them again, and it just doesn't exist anymore. But the Kalour colored pencils are amazing. For $27 for 240 colors, it's great. But yeah, for her skin, I was layering a lot of browns with a lot of oranges. Whenever I use colored pencils, I always start out really lightly because I know that by the end I'll be burnishing, and all of the layers I have put down, it will pay off, right? And also I'm using like very bright pinks to just do little bits of blushing. There's a specific orange brownish color from Prismacolor. I think it's called pumpkin orange or orange pumpkin, something with pumpkin in it. I have it inside of an extended gripper, so I can't really take it out because the grip is broken. I bought 3 of those grips and 2 of them are already broken, so I guess we can say that it's poor quality. But anyway, I just layered a lot of the colors together, and anywhere I wanted it to be more blushy or orange, I would use the pumpkin orange because it's just so perfect, and Prismacolors are so soft, so it just meshed into everything. With her face, I put a lot of layers on it because it's the focal point of her, and because I put so many layers later on, what happened was near her chin it actually started to bubble, and as I was putting more and more layers on, it broke and the paper just kind of started crumbling. That's the only way I can explain it, because it wasn't tearing apart. It was little bits of it, little grains of it was crumbling apart. But regardless, I use the magic of colorless blenders to blend all of my layers together. This is just so that I can burnish out all of the colors, kind of like use a lot of my muscle strength, because I'm definitely a heavy lifter, to blend all of the colors together. So all of the layers that you've painstakingly put together, now it's like smudged everywhere. So I'm just trying to remove the white little tooth parts of the paper. But I think with how inexpensive colorless blenders are, they definitely are a game changer when I first discovered them, when I started using colored pencils more. but they come in sets, and they last forever, so I really think it's a good investment. But now I'm just going to do whatever I did to the face, to the body, so I'm just going to take this opportunity to talk a little more about why I want to switch sketchbooks again. So I record all of my videos using my phone, and the thing with my iPhone is that whenever I'm taking photos or I'm recording a video with the actual camera, it post-processes everything and everything looks sharper, it looks very crispy, and it looks very dull. It tries to sharpen every single edge possible, and I don't know, it just looks very crazy to me and I don't like how it looks. And so I have a different app that I use to record out of. And with this app, it doesn't allow me to really zoom out too far, because if I do, things just look very warped on the edges, almost like you're doing 0.5. So that's why I'm thinking maybe I should get myself a smaller sketchbook or a larger one, but I use one page of it as a spread. Our options are a moleskin or a moleskin, a small moleskin or a large moleskin. The smaller one, I could definitely fit the entire sketchbook to be a spread, and if we do a larger one, I'll take one page, flip it, and use that one page as a horizontal spread. It really depends on what you guys think, because I know people want to see a sketchbook tour from me at a certain point. So what this means is if I start a new sketchbook, I'll be starting from the beginning, but in that way I can show you guys all I have done by the end of next year if I start a new sketchbook. So what do we think? Do we think this is a good idea, or what is it? Because it doesn't affect me. I've used moleskins before. I mean, my sketchbooks throughout school was moleskins because they were large, I can fill it out. So whatever you guys want, I can do, because I already have those two moleskins. I have another sketchbook actually. It's an art creation sketchbook. It's the same size as a smaller moleskin, and then we have the ELO sketchbook that everybody had at a certain point in their life. But do let me know what you think. I will do what you want, because I don't mind having clips with super zoomed in shots. Personally, I don't mind, but I don't know if you guys mind with my editing style, since I basically just piggyback off of what I do for my shorter content. It's just the same type of editing, but a longer form of video. Anywho, I'm now working on the hair, and I actually started off using pink as the base of her hair because all of the different lighter browns that I have, they are very yellow leaning, so I decided to use the pink to kind of just even it out a little bit, because I didn't want her to have yellowish bleach looking hair. I want to talk about her face, where there's that little gash. That was where the paper just started to crumble apart, and the more colored pencils, the more different colors I tried to build on top of it to hide my mistake of breaking the paper, the more it crumbled apart. So I just ended up sealing the mess with gouache. And the main reason this happened was because I ended up wanting to add in the cast of the sword's shadow onto her collar area, onto her neck, and then eventually I just thought, okay, it's going to end up on her face. I've already burnished her face enough. I have layered too much wax onto her face. I've done enough damage with me erasing my sketch prior to this, and so I don't even know, I wasn't putting in a lot of strength when I was putting the colors on her face, and when I saw the little specks of white starting to trickle off of her chin, I was just losing my mind. But hey, nothing a little bit of gouache can't fix. Anyway, moving on to finally the clothing. So at this point, I think I was pretty frustrated when I was doing all of the coloring because I had no room on my desk. So I was just trying to put this here, put this there, and specifically with colored pencils, if I used a color for something, for example, her skin, I used like 12, 13 colors. I had them in a clutch and then I would put them in a certain area on my table just so that I don't forget that these were the colors that I used, because I always have this in the back of my head, oh, what if I want to come back later and I want to do something extra, which I never do, but I put them aside just in case. And for the hair, I had like some colors, so I put that aside. And then for the top, I had colors and then I put them somewhere else. The thing my colored pencils are resting in is this big container. It's a cutlery container, but I use it for colored pencils to just organize different colors. It's huge and it takes up most of my desk, and my tablet's on my desk, my computer's on my desk. So I was just fighting for space, and then my phone was in my face the entire time I was doing this, so I was just really frustrated, which also was the reason why I ended up using gouache for the rest of her pants. No, not the rest of her pants, for the entirety of her pants. And I even opted out of painting the sword, and I think it was just my days of sitting around and working on this. I don't understand why it took me so long. This entire recording took me 5 hours and 30 minutes, which is something that's out of my norm. I would never take that long doing an actual like painting or whatever. It's probably like 2 hours or something, but for some reason I was just procrastinating. I was sitting around, I was doing nothing, so I was just frustrated at myself. But regardless, I'm really happy with how her face looks. Like her eyes, I gave her a little bit of an eye sparkle, which I do only sometimes because I don't like really glossy art for my own art style. So I'll put like a shiny in here and there. But yeah, I do want to hear your opinions on my sketchbook change idea, and also if like this recording seems consistent with my first one. I tried my best to have it look the same. And if there's a different material you'd like to see me using, of course do let me know again, since last time a lot of people wanted to see colored pencils, and that's what I ended up doing this time, even though it's a little frustrating. Maybe next time I can do like a headshot with the colored pencils. I think maybe that was more so what people wanted to see, but I thought like the gouache would be something I'd be a little more comfortable with, especially coming back after 2 months. But anyway, seeing as this video is coming to an end, I again want to thank you guys so much for all of the support that you've shown me. Especially, I do see people in my shorts comments asking, oh, when is your next video? I'm just really excited, blah, blah, blah. I cannot make promises that I will stay consistent. However, I will say the next video will not be a month away. That was just atrocious of me. I just can't believe I did that to you guys. But remember when I said that the Turner white gouache was magnificent and it was amazing? I'm apologizing. I'm here to say I'm sorry because I lied to you guys. I tried the Holbein white gouache and it's significantly better. So if you bought the Turner one, I'm so sorry. But anyway, thank you guys so much for watching.